Hello friends, hi, happy holidays. For those of you that are new here, hi, I'm Faiza, and every week on this channel I talk about a true crime case. I also do spooky stories and skincare if that's what you're into. Let's get into today's case. So today's case is shocking to say the least. It includes jealousy, arson, and polygamy. So on August 15th, 2009, Kuwait has witnessed the most deadliest civilian tragedy, and it includes a woman that lit a wedding tent on fire, and she is the first woman to serve the death penalty. And it sparked a lot of debate. Her husband pushed her towards the edge. We're not entirely sure, but this is what we're dealing with. Many people spectate whether or not this could have been avoided. However, you know these big tents that Kuwaitis use, it's part of their culture, and it's not just a little tent that I'm talking about. It's a huge tent where the Kuwaitis are doing a lot of wedding celebrations or any kinds of festivities. It is not abnormal to use these tents, especially when they separate men and women. So the women and children are in one tent and the men are celebrating nearby. So, you know, it makes sense. So with that said, these tents are highly flammable. The tents that I'm talking about have only one exit and no fire safety procedures was placed on them. It is part of the Kuwaiti culture. Like I said, they've been using these tents for many generations, many years, and this is the first time ever they have abolished these types of tents. So let's skip forward to the wedding night. So on that night, friends and families gathered to celebrate and everybody was having a good time. Like I said before, these wedding tents are separated by gender. So women or children are in one place and the men are celebrating either in another tent or they are celebrating nearby. So the female tent was crowded. Over 100 guests appeared. So you can imagine how huge these tents are. They're very gorgeous inside. They have multiple dressed tables and a dance floor. They are catering food in these tents, and usually you would see in the female tents a lot of women and children are there celebrating alongside with the bride. When I tell you this tent caught on fire, it took 3 minutes for the entire tent to be set ablaze. The tent is so flammable, it only took 3 minutes, and many women and children perished in the fire. Inside the tent, it was estimated to be over 500 degrees, which is equivalent to 932 degrees Fahrenheit. So with that said, who caused the fire? So tragically, 57 women and children have lost their lives and over 90 people were critically injured. Forensic experts only could recover the remains through dental record. It was such a shock to the nation, and people knew someone has set this fire deliberately and they were not going to stop until they find the person responsible. Authorities quickly apprehended the suspect, 23-year-old Nasra Yussef Mohamed Elenzi. She was a mother of 2, okay, and she had a husband called Zayed Safira, and their marriage was toxic. It was terrible. She married him in her late teens, so she was quite young. She really loved her husband more than her kids, I believe, at this point, because her husband blamed her for having children with additional needs. I have never read anything more tone deaf, more discriminatory, very narrow-minded thinking. He blamed his wife, Nasra, for having children with additional needs. Like, who does that? So how did Nasra get caught for setting a tent on fire and killing just under 100 people? Well, one of her maids, okay? In Kuwait, people genuinely have maids. So these maids were watching her and they caught her red-handed. And those weren't just any maids, it was her personal maid that lived with her that caught her red-handed. When Nasra was arrested, she did admit that she intentionally set the fire. So let me tell you why she set the fire. Nasra was very upset that her husband, Zayed, decided to obtain a second wife. So in Kuwait, it is legal to obtain 4 wives. It is part of the Islamic faith. If you're going to have 4 wives, you need to treat them equally, okay? Zayed, he is a very toxic, evil individual. However, he didn't murder anyone. but I do believe he's responsible. So let me explain. He has been emotionally and mentally abusing Nasra for a very long time. He blamed her for having children with additional needs, like I just mentioned. He blamed her for the way their kids are behaving. Nobody is thinking about the children. Nasra has her eyes set on her husband. She doesn't want anyone else. She doesn't really know anyone else. Syed was her first love, her first everything, and she was just angry, jealous, and enraged when he said, "I want a second wife so he could have children that aren't abnormal." And I quote, absolutely disgusting. So with that said, he married someone else and he just met someone within a month's time. Could you imagine? Nasra had no time to process. So she was like, I'm not going to let this happen by any means necessary. She was pushed over the edge. So with that said, she gets a gas can. It's the day of the wedding. She gets her gas can and she pours the gasoline around the tent and she sets it ablaze. The tent only has one narrow exit. People panicked and it caused a stampede. People died in minutes. Children were set ablaze. Women and children died. However, the wife that she tried to kill came out unharmed, including her husband. I don't know if she's trying to kill her husband at this point. I'm not sure what she's thinking. So the public were absolutely devastated to hear about the devastating tragedy, and people wanted answers. People were angry. People wanted justice. So Nasra completely panicked after she has admitted to the arson, and she later recanted her confession and said, "Oh, I actually didn't pour gasoline, it was water." I'm not even joking. Like, the nerve of this woman. However, the evidence contradicted her statement. They actually found, gasoline liquid around the tent and everything. She doesn't make any sense. She really doesn't. Throughout the investigations, they have realized that her actions were deliberate and it came from a crime of passion and revenge. She has to face the consequences of her actions. So in Kuwait, murder typically carries the death penalty. So if you murder someone, will 100% be given the death penalty. It's literally eye for an eye over there, While the law allows the victims' families to come and forgive the accused, in this case, nobody came forward and nobody forgave Nasra for what she has done. Not one person came forward, and she has killed many children and women in that tent. Some of the kids are so young, I can't even mention it on this channel right now. It's just tragic, to say the least. Nasra actually committed mass murder, if you think about it. She killed so many people all at once. Absolutely horrific. Additionally, pregnant women in Kuwait usually receive a life sentence instead of a death penalty. And Nasra actually was pregnant during her time of crime. She was pregnant with her third child by her husband. However, when her husband found out that she was the accused, he hired someone that was a relative that works in the prison, and he managed to give Nasra some medication because she wasn't feeling well, and that induced an abortion. So because of the medication she took, she had an abortion, and then that made her eligible again for the death penalty. People really wanted her gone. So her defense lawyer explained that Nasra has mental health issues and she didn't intend to kill anyone, but one thing led to another that ultimately caused the fire. She didn't know that the tents were that flammable. She wasn't aware of the one narrow exit. It was a terrible accident. What do you guys think? Nasra's death penalty was controversial, but it was going to happen because of the high death toll she has caused. She has murdered so many people. She's a mass murderer. Nobody could overlook what has happened. This sparked a debate whether or not women have a say once a husband introduces polygamy within the marriage, how this would affect a woman's well-being and so on. Me personally, like, an end of a relationship shouldn't result in murder and some sort of breakdown. Like, you are more than your relationship. Always choose yourself. I mean, it's not a big deal when your marriage comes to an end, your relationship comes to an end. That is just my personal opinion, but you shouldn't be wrapped around someone and not have a life of your own? And why kill others? Like, why? And did she really think her husband will just take her back as soon as she murders his new bride? Would he be like, oh, I have come to my senses now, let's be a family again and let's live happily ever after? Is that what she was looking for? You know, she honestly thought she wasn't gonna get caught. So following this terrible disaster, Kuwait has officially banned wedding tents from here on out. Nasra was executed by hanging on January 25th, 2017. She was only 26 years old. And her husband, I don't know what he's doing right now or whether or not he has married his new bride. But I just chose to not, look for that information, to be honest with you. But do you guys think he has a role to play in all this? Do you think Nasra was pushed over the edge? Or do you think she's just a depraved monster that caused chaos just because she was jealous and enraged? Do let me know your thoughts down below. Till then, stay safe, stay hydrated, and I will see you guys again next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.